Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, doing okay.
Okay.
I was just trying to go over my day today, and I was like, it's fairly uneventful. So,
yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. So, how about yourself?
Doing pretty good. First thing that I want to mention is my brother's Kickstarter. It's been going on for a couple months.
Yeah.
A couple months. What am I saying?
Months,
A couple weeks. As of the day that this goes out, there will only be one more week.
Ooh.
So if you are interested in getting a copy of The Mountain Witch, or possibly multiple copies of The Mountain Witch, or more, or something, or whatever, then go to Kickstarter, type in The Mountain Witch. It's doing really, really well. I've heard that the first day and the last day are always the biggest. So
sure, yeah.
I'm definitely curious to see where it goes in the last few days.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably put a little disclaimer at the beginning of next episode. Just in case anybody listens to it day of and they're like, oh crap, I want to go get that, so they can run over and check it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kickstarter, The Mountain Witch. It's really cool. It's doing really well. So go check that out.
Yep.
Also, I want to mention a podcast that I started listening to recently.
Oh, another one.
It's another, because I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
A lot. And so this podcast, it's just started. It's on like their 7th episode or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they it doesn't look like they have a huge listenership. So it's called The Cantrip Podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Depending on where you hear about it, it's either The Cantrip or The Cantrip Podcast. I think on iTunes, it's The Cantrip Podcast. And the two hosts, John and Angela, they're a married couple, I believe. And they talk about a different D&D topic, a different topic, like they've been covering various races. They talked about like alignment one day and so on. Anyway, they just kind of talk about whatever, but they also they share a lot of like D&D stories that they have. They talk about, stuff they've done. They also end every episode with a green text story. Okay. Which I think is a thing that originated on 4chan.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's a 4chan thing, I think, is green text.
Yeah, but basically it's just a story that somebody wrote about a game a situation they were in a D&D game, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. So it's a really good podcast. They're a lot of fun to listen to. I've been emailing them back and forth about some of the my thoughts on the show, and I think they're really cool. So go check them out. It is once again The Cantrip Podcast. Also, we have a new patron that I want to mention. Yes, we do. Woo! This patron's name is Noah Wizard.
Oh.
You know who that is.
I know who that is.
So, yes, we are very, very thankful for him.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Noah Wizard. Also, I want to say that I bought a webcam the other day.
Right, yeah.
Using some of our Patreon funds. Now that we got the quote-unquote big bucks coming in.
We got the cash.
Yes.
We got that cash money bank cheddar.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Sorry.
We have exactly that, apparently.
Well, yeah, no, this is for doing the stream, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing a stream sometime in the next couple months. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I had a webcam, but as anyone who has played in one of our Roll20 games can attest, it is crap.
Yeah. It looked fine. The physical thing itself, I was like, oh, that looks like a nice camera, but like the quality of it was just sort of like
was real bad.
Yeah, like for our Patreon video, we ended up just using my phone.
Yes, yeah, we tried to do it with my webcam, didn't work.
Yeah, it just
didn't work at all.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. That was weird. But yeah, we just used my phone, which isn't like a brand new phone, but phone cameras are getting ridiculous these days. But. But anyway. Yeah,
so we got that. And so once we do our stream, it should be really cool. I mentioned last week that I was doing some work on my arcade cabinet, and I love how it looks. I got it finished after we recorded our last episode, and nice. I'm really happy with it. After we're done today, I want you to see it.
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, I want to see how it is.
Also, this is going to be quite possibly the nerdiest thing that I've talked about in a long time.
Wow, what?
And this is coming from a guy who just ran a game of D&D today at the library.
Currently speaking in a tabletop podcast, but go on.
Yeah, you make a good point. Last week, I sang in a barbershop quartet.
Oh. Okay.
When I was in high school, I used to do a lot of musical theater.
Sure.
As possibly evidenced by the little jingle that plays whenever somebody wins the Chapel on the Cliffs drawing.
Right.
But yeah, I found out that there's a church nearby where I live that every week they have a barbershop quartet thing. This month they're trying to get new people in. So I thought, what the heck? It's been a long time since I've done anything like that.
Sure.
I'll go see what I was doing. Our Patreon game got canceled, so I figured. Figured I would go see what was up.
Yeah, cool.
It was a lot of fun. I might have gone today if we had recorded a little earlier, but I'm okay with not doing it today. So yeah, I mean it was a lot of fun. I'll probably go back at some point, but it is a little out there.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's not crazy out there.
Oh,
but,
I know, but
it's I feel like there's not very many barbershop quartet singers among D&D players.
Yeah, I don't know. And one more thing, we played at the library, played D&D at the library today, and we had a whole bunch of people.
Cool.
The last few sessions we've had like the same 4 or 5 people, and this time we had there were 5 people I had never met before.
Oh, cool.
Showed up. So it was really cool. Two of them were these 2 little kids that already had characters made, from a game. Now, it actually led to a little bit of, I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it because their characters were 4th level, whereas all the characters I had pre-made were 2nd level.
Sure.
And they even had a couple magic items from, I guess, whatever game they've been playing with friends or whatever.
But I mean,
but I didn't tell them, no, you don't get to use those.
Yeah.
Because, if they're showing up at the game, sure, I'll find some other way to deal with it.
They obviously are excited about it and they want to use their characters and stuff like that. I feel like, that should be encouraged.
Yeah.
So.
I did check with everybody else. Hey, is it cool with you guys if they're a higher level than you? And I think one guy wanted all the rest of the players to level up their characters, but it's that would take too long. We can't do that.
Sure.
But then our friend Steve was there and he said the best way to think of it is just say, how about they're the star players, and everybody seemed cool with that. And it ended up not even they didn't overshadow anybody at any point. The session was really short and didn't really have too much going on.
Yeah, action economy is the same, but it's going to be this mostly the same. So.
Yeah, and then we had 2 people that hadn't played since 3rd edition.
Okay.
So it was cool to have them, and they got to see what the difference was between those. So it was a lot of fun. And then after the session was over, I had some blank character sheets. They went and they were going to go make their own characters for next time.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I hopefully will see them again. And if nothing else, I'm glad to have helped some new people get into the current edition and play the game.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds like a good turnout.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of that. You want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the last 2 weeks, you've been eating these various cereals.
Oh, right.
Okay. As a little kid, you've been eating these various cereals.
Right. Yeah.
For some reason, every fantasy-based cereal that's out there is giving out a decoder ring at the same time. Well, the first week you did a bad job. The next week you did a bad job. So this week, you have grown. You have grown aware of the perils of decoder ring manipulation. So you are prepared. So you have advantage on this.
Yeah.
So this is what this cereal is.
I'm ready to roll two
this cereal is Magic Item Krispies.
Magic Item Krispies.
You've got some Magic Item Krispies. They've got their own decoder ring. Go ahead and roll that that intelligence check.
I've been preparing for this day.
It better be 2 natural 20s, Jeff. It better be.
Oh, hey, one's a 19.
Okay, awesome. So you
you weren't expecting me to win.
I got this. Sorry, I blanked on it for a moment. Okay, so you take this decoder ring. You see the message that's on the back of the box. And you know that this is going to be something important.
Nice.
This is going to be a big deal. You've been working at this for weeks. And that's not even counting. I'll say for this one actually wasn't in the box. You had to send in a whole bunch of box tops to get this one in the mail. But it finally came in the mail. And so you got your decoder ring. You've got the message on the back of the box. And so you start decoding it. You're spinning the wheel one way, you spin it the other way. You're lining up the symbols, you get the letters. and it finally starts to take shape. And the message says, be sure to drink your Dragon's Hoard brand chocolate drink. And then you realize, wait a minute.
It's just a
freaking commercial for the Dragon's Hoard.
Okay.
Yeah. So this I'll just say right now that's going to be the last Dakota Ring themed Dragon's Hoard entry. I guess that I know of for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
So today's item was submitted by Brett on Facebook, and this item was submitted to us in direct response to something we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what this item is and what it does, and see if you can recognize what it was that prompted this.
Okay.
All right. This item is called Thakwarl's Ring of Obfuscation.
I beg your pardon.
Yes. So this is a ring that, when it is worn, renders the wearer nondescript and difficult to remember. Rolls to remember or describe the wearer are at disadvantage, or -5 for passive checks to recognize on the street, for example. After 24 hours, rolls are made at a -1, which increases by 1 every 2 weeks since the person last recognized the character. So if someone were to see you on the street, they would have disadvantage at trying to remember or describe you. Mm-hmm. And then after 24 hours, you then would take an additional -1. And then every 2 weeks after that. So the longer you wait, the harder it gets to recognize you.
Sure.
So this is a ring that makes it hard for people to notice you.
That's really cool. And it does remind me of something, but I don't know if it was something we talked about. What this reminds me... It's not helping.
What you guys can't see is that I have put on a pair of sunglasses because they're the only glasses that I had in the room. And then I am pretending to type on a keyboard very animatedly. And then I waved to somebody at work and I went back to typing.
Oh, I'm not sure I remember what you're talking about. But I mean, like, the thing that this reminds me of is it's a Doctor Who thing.
Okay.
In Doctor Who, like, there's like this... Like they put their like a key around their neck or something. I can't quite remember.
Sorry, are you talking about? No, I think I know what you're talking about. Is it like psychic paper or something?
No.
What am I thinking of?
Well, psychic paper is like he basically has just it's like a wallet thing, but there's like just a sheet of blank paper. What looks like just a sheet of blank paper.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But it's just like basically like
it shows up as whatever the person wants it to or something. When they look at
whatever
it.
they expect it to be.
Yeah,
so it's a badge or it's a key or it's identification that is relevant to that exact situation and like lie that he's telling basically.
Sure,
it's like oh, I'm with the whatever bureau, and it's like oh okay. But no, there was another thing where it's like they wear like a necklace. Sorry, Doctor Who fans, I don't quite remember everything.
And for any hate mail, Jeff's mailing address is.
Okay, goodness.
I wouldn't be able to recall the number of your address or even the name of your street.
I barely remember the name of your street, but only because I see it, every week I come here. So.
Sure.
But anyway, it's just a necklace that they wear that it's like, I think it's called a perception dampener or something like that.
Okay.
But it is like, it's just a thing that they wear so that like when like it just kind of keeps people from noticing them.
Okay.
So they're not invisible, like they're going through like time and space, and so they're kind of out of place in sometimes. But like, so like they don't draw attention, but when they wear these things because they're just sort of like it's you just sort of don't notice them, or like you just happen to look away from them. You're not looking at, you're never quite looking them dead on. You're just sort of like, So it's just sort of like this just a barrier of not being noticed or something like that.
And that's sort of similar to this. So I'll just tell you, this was in response to us talking about Clark Kent's glasses as being a magic item.
Oh, sure. Yeah, these are Clark Kent's glasses.
Yeah, because he is Superman. He looks fairly distinct.
Right.
And when he's wearing those glasses, nobody even gives him a second thought.
Right, yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, they're the magical property. Like, so instead of a ring, they could just be a pair of glasses.
Yeah, could be.
But no, I kind of really like this item. Just it's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely useful for something like subterfuge.
Yeah,
because you want to get in somewhere that if someone does see you, they're not gonna think twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or
a
just
heist would benefit from this.
For like the rogue in the group that like doesn't necessarily want to be noticed as part of this group that's going around doing all these things that like, I mean, a group of adventurers draws a lot of attention.
Sure.
So if somebody in that group doesn't want the attention, they can wear that ring and maybe people just forget that they were part of that group. They'll just be like, was there another person? No, I think that was all of them. Yeah, okay. You know,
a couple D&D related things that this makes me think of. Number one, when I was playing as Ichi, there was a member of our group who his name was Alistair, and he was a fairy cleric of Mask. Anyway, his whole shtick in the campaign was whatever happens, he wants to have no one even know that he was there. He wants people to know what happened because he wants our group to be feared. However, he does not want to be a part of it at all. So every adventure we went on, if we killed, we like took down a drow stronghold, we defeated, I don't know, like some big thing of undead or something. Every exploit that our group could brag about, he would make sure, because he had a lot of connections, he would make sure everyone knew about them. But the story everyone knew about was that Ichi did it all.
Sure.
Ichi, the big dumb guy with a target on his forehead, basically, was the person accredited was the person that every single exploit the group got up to was credited to.
Sure.
And so that meant, number one, that when people saw Ichi, they were afraid of him. And number two, when people saw Alistair, no one cared who he was.
Sure.
Even if they were with Ichi, it didn't matter. It's like, who's that guy standing next to Ichi? Who cares?
Yeah, especially because like it's Ichi. Oh, and like so like all attention is paid to him, and so like it doesn't matter if you walked in with somebody or not. You know?
Exactly. So like when Ichi started getting the reputation of like the undead slayer, Alistair was like, oh yeah, Ichi the undead slayer. Hey everyone, go tell about Ichi the undead slayer. Make sure everyone knows about Ichi the undead slayer, and no one knows about Alistair, the fairy cleric that's hiding in the back.
Yeah.
So that was, this would have been a great thing for him. Also, I remember in the Book of Vile Darkness, which was a 3rd edition book, which was exactly what it sounds like.
Yep.
There were a whole bunch of, I'm pretty sure it was in that book, there were like a whole bunch of like poisons and diseases and stuff, some of which were really, really nasty.
Oh, yeah.
One of them was a poison that did charisma damage, so it reduced your charisma score. And as the more damage it did to you, the less material you became invisible and possibly ethereal. I'm not sure. But not only that, eventually, if you let your charisma get down to 0, it killed you. But not only that, everyone forgot about you.
Oh man.
So if you were killed by this poison or disease or whatever it was, you would eventually disappear from history.
Right.
And that sounds really nasty, but then at the same time, you could use this on yourself. If you were an assassin, you killed some really important high-profile figure and then poisoned yourself, eventually people would stop looking for you. As long as you used the antitoxin or whatever before you died, you could basically get off completely scot-free because in the middle of this investigation, everyone forgot who they were looking for and then stopped looking. Maybe eventually they would remember because, you reverse the effects of the poison.
Right.
But by that point, you're 3 countries over.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's been months since this happened.
Well, I was thinking, like, if the effect of forgetting you completely only happens when you die of the poison.
I don't remember exactly the details,
but you could, like, set up some sort of contingent spell to, like, true res you.
Sure.
So that, like, you're basically... It's not really faking your death because you're actually dying, and it's not really that... But it's even further in that they don't remember you at all. So it's basically, you just, like... It's like a clean slate.
Yeah.
Like... Almost literally, like it's just like you die and then like you have some contraption that sets off a true res.
Sure,
and then because you couldn't trust somebody else to do it because they would have forgotten.
They would have forgotten you, exactly. Man, faking your own death would be so much easier with 9th level spells,
right?
How about that?
You know what? I never thought of that. Jeez. Now I know what to do about my taxes next year.
Exactly. So yeah, this is a pretty simple item. But its power is tied directly to your creativity. How well you're able to use it is going to determine how powerful it is. But at the same time, in a situation where it is useful, it's really useful. And I think that's really what magic items should be.
Yeah.
They shouldn't necessarily be universally useful, but when they're useful, they should be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Thakwarl's Ring of Obfuscation. That was submitted.
You going to bleep that out?
Well, now I have to. No, I will not. So thank you, Brett, for that. And so that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard. If anybody wanted to submit Dragon's Hoard items for us, or stories for the funeral pyre, or just questions for us to talk about, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
Yes, awesome. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway for today.
Do?
Yes, we do. So today, as always, we are giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs from Goblinstone. And Jeff, who is today's winner for the Chapel on the Cliffs drawing?
Today's winner is Peter H.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Woo. Congratulations, Peter H. So if you do not get that within the next 24 hours, first check your spam folder. And then after that, let me know if it's not there. We'll get you set up. And also be sure to let Goblinstone know and let them know what you thought so that they can make it better or make future projects better.
Yep. And right now we don't have a ton of entries right now, so your chances are good if you want to enter in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try posting on social media some more to get some more with some more entries. But we're running pretty low, so send us a submission and we will. I'm sorry, Jeff. How would someone do that exactly?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the subject line "Chapel on the Cliffs."
Is that all it takes?
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. All right.
You don't have to put anything in the email, although you could.
You could tell us good job.
Yeah.
You could tell us bad job, I guess.
You'd say, "I hate you. Please give me stuff."
Yep. What was that?
I don't know. What are you talking about? I don't know.
Hey. I guess nothing. Hey. So Chapel on the Cliffs, Goblinstone, just send us an email and get entered into the drawing. And then I also want to mention our friend podcasts, Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Be sure to check them out. They're a great podcast. They give you tips for players and DMs alike. They give you a character concept, an encounter concept, a monster variant, a magic item, a DM tip, and a player tip. They give you great stuff. Yeah. Some of which has been submitted by me. A small amount of it.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Is this how you're going to be the whole episode?
No.
I mean, that's fine if you are. I'm just curious. I'd like to know in advance.
Right. Yeah. I like to be prepped on these things.
Yes. And then also check out D&D Character Lab, and their website is dndcharacterlab.blogspot.com. Mm-hmm. You might be hearing more of them on this show sometime soon. Just putting that out there. Cool. So check them out. They're a great podcast, Garen and Dan. They make characters and then pit them against each other and debate whose is better. I think it's a great concept for a podcast.
Yeah, that's a lot of characters. Sorry.
It sounded like you said that's a lot of cactus.
Cactus?
And I was like, I mean, I guess. I'm not sure how.
It's cactus.
That's a weird metaphor, but I suppose that's a lot of cactus.
Cactus.
Yeah.
You're just saying cactus.
All right. You want to get into the questions, Jeff?
I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for not. I'm asking you in advance. I'm thanking you in advance for not ever doing that voice again.
Oh, I am. Am I not doing that voice ever again?
That's up to you, Jeff.
I wouldn't even really call that a voice. That was just more just. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I could do voices, Gabe. I could do voices.
Yep.
And I'm not
plural. 2 voices.
Yeah, I could talk to like 2 voices at the same time.
Oh, that'd be creepy.
Or do, what was it, Brian Griffin, who sings his own barbershop quartet.
He does.
He does his imitation of a barbershop quartet.
Yeah.
Should mention that.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. All right, our first question comes from Laxgoli16. This was on Reddit. How can I encourage new players to avoid metagaming?
Yeah. So let's say you're playing a game, you're running a game, and the players are attacking the monster or something. I think this is the example they used when they were asking the question.
Sure.
So one of the players goes to attack the monster. They roll a 13 and they miss.
Okay.
Then the next character goes and they roll and they get a 14 and they hit. And then they're like, okay, guys, the monster's AC is 14.
Uh-huh.
If you didn't want players to do that, how would you get them to not do that?
Right. You just Well,
I mean specifically new players.
Well, for one thing, knowing an AC isn't like a super advantage.
Yeah,
because it's still whether or not you roll.
Sure.
Like you still have the same bonuses. I mean, like maybe it could help. Like I was thinking about using this thing that gives me a +1, but I can only use it once per day. And if you're like, well, his AC is only 14, I think we can handle that without using this item.
Yeah.
That could be a little bit of an advantage.
So
if they know that the AC is high, maybe a wizard, like a caster could be like, okay, instead of using this attack spell, I'll use a spell that makes them do a save because maybe their save is lower than than what their AC would be.
Sure. Now, so this is a fairly simple question, but I thought that using this question, there's a lot more that could be unpacked if we want to. So we're going to be talking a lot about metagaming.
Yeah.
Not just how to get a new player to avoid it, but also whether or not you should. And really, what is metagaming?
Yeah.
Metagaming, I mean, I feel like we've talked about metagaming in the past.
Sure.
But metagaming is anytime you use out of game knowledge in game, presumably for some sort of an advantage.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different forms metagaming can take. And I'm going to say right here at the beginning, not all of them are bad. A lot of them you do without even realizing it, without even thinking of whether it is bad or not. Because it probably isn't.
Yeah.
There are times when it can be bad, and we'll probably cover a couple of those. So in the situation where a player knows what a monster's AC is, there are some times where this might be useful or not. Now, there are some abilities that let you re-roll an attack roll, but you have to re-roll it before you know whether or not it was a hit.
Sure.
So let's say the player knows the monster's AC is 14 and they roll a 13. They might choose, okay, well, I know that that's not a hit. I'm going to use this thing to re-roll it.
Yeah.
Some people will say that that's metagaming. If they instead rolled a 14, but they don't know what its AC is, they might re-roll, they might not. Because they don't know what its AC is, they don't know that they've already hit. So they might be wasting an ability because they don't know this piece of information. Now, I will say, this is a variant of something I've said many, many times. If an encounter is ruined because a player knows information about a monster that you didn't want them to know, it probably wasn't a great encounter to begin with. If the whole thing is ruined, I mean, I don't necessarily think any encounters are ruined by this sort of thing. But if part of the tension of the encounter comes from not knowing what a monster's AC is, that's not a great. That can be one piece of a great encounter, but that is not what makes an encounter great. If that makes a significant impact on how good an encounter is, something went wrong before that point. It's great when the players go in completely blind. It's great when there is that like aha moment or that moment of discovery. That is a great part to an encounter, but if you don't have that, it shouldn't mean that your encounter isn't good. It shouldn't be a huge deal for your players to know what a monster's AC is. Now, I'm not saying the players should know all of the stats of a monster. I don't tell players, I will be needlessly cagey about what a monster's AC is for a little while.
Right.
But
I mean, after a while, it's going to be like, AC is one of the harder things to keep secret because it's just it's a process of elimination. Like, it's just like, I mean, if people are attacking the same thing enough times, like they're going to figure out, okay, it's within this range or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
like 12 missed.
A 12 missed.
A 15 hit. A 13 missed. Nobody's rolled a 14 yet, but it's either a 14 or a 15.
Right.
If someone had perfect photographic memory, they're going to be able to figure a lot of these things out.
Sure.
So you wouldn't want to penalize someone for having a good memory. So in the same way, I don't penalize someone for like, even if they have read if they've read the monster manual, I'm not going to penalize someone for that.
Yeah.
Now, I've talked many, many times in the past about how to give encounters that magic of discovery.
Okay.
Because I do value the discovery aspect of an encounter. But then that's not that's not because you don't want players to ever know anything. It's because you want them to have to learn it again. But once they learn it, you can't make them act like they haven't learned something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It takes an experienced player to purposely not use knowledge that they have.
Sure.
Metagaming isn't always bad. There are times when it's bad. Like I said, I think we'll get to that. But if you have new players and they find out a piece of information about your encounter, don't penalize that. Reward that. Mm-hmm. Like especially with something like AC, once they know it, good job. They have just made the encounter easier for you because you don't have to keep telling them whether their attack hit. Once they know the AC is a 14, if they get a 14, they can just say I hit.
Yeah.
And as long as your players aren't cheating, then that's a good thing. You've just lightened your workload. Good job.
And I mean, if you want a way to like justify it too, even in character, like, I mean, it's just like if anybody's spending enough time fighting a thing is going to kind of like get a read on them, you know?
Sure.
So it's kind of like that. And it's not like again, there's not always an advantage to knowing the AC, mm-hmm. but there can be. But I mean, like it's kind of like the idea is like if it is just sort of a process of elimination where they figured it out, like it is very much like when you're in a duel with somebody and you figure out their style of fighting and you're like, okay, he leans to the left a little bit. Okay, I'll take advantage of that.
Yeah. Like I'm sure that there have been boxers who during the fight realized, oh, he doesn't know how to defend against this one particular hit.
Right.
And then they use that hit and it hits every time.
Right.
And then they win because of it.
Yeah.
That's a thing that happens. Mm. And
it's just that can carry on to other games and
it can. I mean, it is okay. Here's when it becomes a problem. Okay. And I'll share a story from a recent game I was in.
Sure.
I don't think he'll be listening to this, but one of our patrons and a coworker of mine, his name is Mike.
Uh-huh.
He was running a game recently where he had us fight against, there was this monster, I think it's in the Tome of Beasts, and I'm not super familiar with the monster, but there are a lot of details about what the monster will do or won't do. And before this session, his wife is one of the players in the group, and nothing against her, nothing against him, but he didn't realize he thought she was going to be absent for this session. Uh-huh. So he told her, hey, this is what the players are going to be fighting. He said, this is what it can do, this is what it can't do, it will do this, it won't do this, and so on. Well, she ended up being there for the session. The thing she was going to do got canceled. And so she was in the fight with us. And, I could tell that for the most part, she was trying not to let out of character knowledge get into the game. But there was a point where the monster did something and she said to the DM, it wouldn't do that. I know its stats. It wouldn't do that.
Uh-huh.
And, to his credit, he had to do it anyway because he's the DM. He can do that.
Right.
But that is when it becomes a problem.
Sure, yeah.
Is when the player says, no, I know what's in the book. This isn't following the book. Because it doesn't matter what's in the book. The DM doesn't have to follow the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say an experienced player knows that. There have been times where I have pointed something out to the DM.
Yeah,
but
I'm very guilty of that myself.
I'm not trying to say the monster won't do this. I'm trying to say, hey, just in case you're doing this by accident and not on purpose, in the book it says this.
Yeah.
If the DM is, and I've had people mention this to me as the DM, and I've said, oh, shoot, I did that by mistake. Okay, it doesn't do that, it does this other thing instead. But then other times I've said, the one in the book doesn't do that, does it? And then I've continued to do what I was going to do.
Right, sure.
Because, as the DM, that's what I can do. Even if I did it by mistake, I can commit to it. I can say, oh no, well, it still does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it isn't even a problem just when the player knows what the monster can and can't do.
Right.
But when they try to use that to tell the DM how to run their game, that's when it becomes a problem.
Sure.
So, if a player, because hey, if it was a bad thing for a player to know monster stats, that means no DMs would ever be able to be players. You know what I mean? Because
right, yeah.
I know a lot of monsters, not all of them, especially not in this edition, but in third edition, I knew freaking every monster's bonus to their fort saves. I know every monster's skill modifiers. I knew everything.
Uh-huh.
And so, I'm able to compartmentalize that as a player, I'm able to know what my character would or wouldn't know to do. Mm-hmm. But if that was a bad thing, knowing that, then I wouldn't have been able to play the game.
Yeah.
So it's not metagaming, especially in this regard, is not inherently a problem. It's how the player uses that metagaming.
Sure. I feel like I'm pretty guilty of, like just be like, wait a minute, that's not how that works or whatever. And then like, I'll, like I hope I tried not to say anything about it, but sometimes I might bring up like later on and like, oh, this thing happened earlier. The book says this other thing. Like I might bring it up after, like I'll try to bring up like well after the fact so that it's not like a contested thing at like in the moment.
Sure.
But I'll be like, oh, this is what the rule reads or whatever. So like if it comes up again, we can then decide to do it one way or another, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's because like I like making characters and I have to follow very strict rules to make those characters.
Sure.
So that when a thing happens that the DM does that isn't by those strict rules, I'm like, oh man, like how come I don't get to just bend the rules or whatever?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Thinking about this, I'm almost thinking like it might be better if I start trying to DM more rather than play just because of my my thoughts on that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try not to metagame, and when I think I might be metagame, I think I've said this before, I'll roll checks for myself.
Sure.
Like I'll roll my own checks. Like I'll be like, would my character think of that?
Yeah.
Like would that be something that he noticed, or is this something that makes sense to him? Would he recognize that there is a pattern to this monster's attacks or whatever?
Sure. And I think that's perfectly reasonable because, even if your character maybe doesn't have high enough intelligence to notice something like that.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they can't.
Right.
It just means that they are less likely to notice it. Everybody has known someone who might not have been the brightest crayon in the bunch, but something just clicks and they immediately know the answer.
Yeah, the brightest knife in the cereal closet.
Sure. So it's not impossible for someone to know something that they have a lower chance of knowing. It's just less likely for them to do so. Even if the DM did call for an intelligence check, even the person with like a 3 intelligence can still roll a 20.
Right.
And they'd get a 16, 17, 16.
Sure.
They could still get a fairly high result.
Yeah, get one of those like idiot savant situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or heck, luck is I was about to say luck is a thing. I mean, well, we just recently on an episode a couple weeks ago, I talked about how I don't believe in luck.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But, sometimes things like that just happen.
Right. Yeah. There's like you're rolling dice. It's to get as random as a number as possible. So like that randomness is sort of in the game mechanics can be luck.
Sure.
So so you could have a really low score, but if you roll a 20, you can succeed.
Yeah. So it's not even 100% necessary for someone to prevent themselves from metagaming when their character has a low intelligence and they're trying to solve a puzzle or something.
Yeah.
So I'll even just say that there's a lot of things that, if you want to get technical, are metagaming that people just ignore because it's part of playing the game.
Yeah.
For example, your character has an 18 strength. My character has a 12 strength. Your character is going to be the one that's going to try to break down the door.
Sure.
You are going to know that your character has a higher chance of breaking down the door.
Yeah.
That is metagaming.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not a bad form of metagaming.
And you could easily work your way around it by just being over time, your characters would realize, oh, okay, he's definitely stronger than I am.
Sure.
But at least in the first few adventures, it's you don't know that the fighter is a fighter.
Yeah.
I'm the wizard and I don't know this. I can assume by the equipment he has maybe, but
yeah,
I don't know how strong he could be. He could be pretending to be a fighter.
And that reminds me of something that I've gotten into many a discussion on the internet about. I'm gonna make a.
You want to stay away from that, the internet.
I'm gonna make a statement here, and I implore you all to think about the truth in this. Class and level only exist in universe if the DM wants them to. There is no reason someone would be able to look at a first level character and a 20th level character and know that there is anything different about them. Sure, the 20th level character might have like a whole bunch of magic items. He might have like a bunch of stones floating around his head, and he might have like visible magical effects on him or something like that. But if that isn't the case, a 20th level fighter doesn't look any different than a first level fighter.
Right.
Maybe if you like get to know them and you are able to physically test them in some way, you'll see, oh, they're really good at what they do.
Right.
Compared to the first level fighter. Similarly, a cleric and a paladin are the same thing in universe unless the DM wants them to be different.
Right, yeah. You can play them off as pretty much the same thing. And like some of the cleric in 5th edition, some of the cleric like domains.
Domains, yeah.
Some of the cleric domains are very like can be kind of fighty, like, and so that you can easily mistake them as like something like a paladin.
Sure. And like, what's the difference between a bard, a rogue that plays an instrument, and a sorcerer that plays an instrument?
Sure.
In universe, nothing.
Right.
Maybe the DM has decided that there are like visible, measurable mechanics of spellcasting, and the bard uses those, the rogue doesn't, and the sorcerer does them differently. That's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible for the DM to decide that that is the case, but that isn't inherently the case. It's only that way because the DM wants it to be that way. So a lot like we've talked in the past, I'm pretty sure I've said on the podcast, there isn't a reason why your first level cleric couldn't be the high priest of a deity.
Sure.
Mechanically, you're going to run into some issues, but a person on the street is not going to know, wait a minute, that was a first level slot, not an 8th level slot. Because spell slots, again, don't exist in universe unless the DM wants them to. Yes, there are certain spells that do certain things. There are going to be certain magic effects that a first level cleric can't do. But what level was Gandalf?
Right, yeah.
If you look at the spells he casts, he was like a 3rd level wizard or something.
Sure.
He doesn't do anything that is higher than like a 2nd level spell slot.
Yeah, but in a world where like, 90% of the people have access to no magic, he's a god,
Sure. If you were a DM of that world, or if you were like a PC in that world, you might be able to see, okay, he only has 2nd level slots, therefore he's only a 3rd level wizard or whatever. But the characters in that world, they're going to be like, holy crap, this guy's throwing around fireballs. He's got all this crazy magic stuff. I don't know how to do anything he does.
Yeah.
He's a god as far as I'm concerned. So to say that a certain character can or can't do something because they are a certain level is metagame. Again, a DM can decide that after a certain mechanical level, the cleric gains this ability in universe. And you can say that people know this, but it's not that way until the DM decides it's that way.
Yeah.
There is no reason it has to be in that way. In fact, all of the fiction you will read, which I think we can all agree that D&D is very largely based on, all of the fiction you will read, the characters have to be incredibly low level. They get taken down in a single hit all the time. And that's another thing. Hit points are a huge abstraction.
Yeah.
To say anything about hit points is too metagame.
Right, yeah.
If a character is at half hit points, and you're going to go and heal them because you know they're at half hit points, that's metagame. Because I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this on the show before, but like I've gotten into arguments with people on the internet about hit points are not physical. They're not necessarily physical wounds.
Right. It could just be stamina. Like,
sure,
it just could be your physical endurance, and that last hit point is you being so tired that you couldn't get out of the way of the attack, and then that's what kills you.
Exactly. And I know this probably sounds like a whole lot of tangents, but it is all the same,
right?
The same thing of metagaming.
Yeah.
Take for example, the fight between Inigo Montoya and Count Rugen.
Okay.
In the movie The Princess Bride, the entire time they are fighting, neither of them lands a blow until the very end of the fight.
Right.
At which point, Inigo gets hit a few times, and then I won't say what happens after that because it's a spoiler, and if you haven't seen the movie, you should go watch it. And if you haven't seen the movie, you should go watch it again because it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't watched that movie?
Jeff.
Go see that movie.
I cannot picture a person that does not like that movie.
I don't want to. Stop it.
Okay. So in that fight, neither of them hits.
Right.
Quote unquote, neither of them lands a physical blow and causes a physical injury until long after the fight has started. Mm-hmm. So and then once it happens, they go down like nothing. So either they are high level characters trading quote unquote hits. Basically, both of them hits the other's AC over and over and over again until they both get weak enough that they are able to take the other down. Uh-huh. Or they are very low-level characters that keep missing until finally one of them hits.
Sure.
That doesn't sound like an exciting, epic battle. That sounds like, I roll, I hit, I miss. I roll, I miss. I roll, I miss.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other, which is like, I roll. Oh man, I hit. I do some of that stamina damage. I'm wearing you down. Oh no, he hit. He's wearing me down. Mm-hmm. You know, it just barely missed me.
Yeah.
I'm losing some of my luck that is following me around.
Sure.
And then eventually it comes to a climactic end, as opposed to, oh cool, I finally rolled high enough. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I finally rolled high enough is not an exciting end to a
no,
fight.
it really isn't.
So for a character to know that character has taken some damage, I'm going to heal him, either means that all of those hits were physical wounds, which falls down, it falls apart under scrutiny eventually. Or it means that the character is metagaming and that they know that the other character is mechanically down on hit points and they're going to heal them.
Yeah.
That's not bad though.
Sure.
It helps the game move along.
Yeah.
Not to say anything bad about the alternative, but like Justin from Crit Academy, he has run games where he doesn't tell the players what their hit points are at. I think that if that's what you're going for, that's fine. That is a great goal, and that's a great way to run an adventure as long as everybody is down for it. But I find personally that if the challenge comes from the player not knowing how wounded they are, that's not really what I'm going for. That's not my goal in creating tension. I'd rather create tension with them knowing where their hit points are at. They know exactly how close they are to death.
Yeah.
And if another player is trying to decide whether to heal them or not, I would rather they make that decision with as much information as possible. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to feel like, well, if Gabe had done a better job of explaining his wounds, I would have healed him and then he would have survived.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the source of tension.
Yeah.
Again, not to disparage anybody who does that, but that's personally not what I'm looking for in running a game.
Right. The way in the game that I'm playing in right now, the way that Dave is doing it is just no numbers, but describe it however you want.
Okay.
Like describe, like if somebody's like, "Are you hurt?" You just don't say the exact number, but you can be like, "I'm really hurt right now."
And so in that case, the player gets to
describe
it.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. I would probably, if the players wanted to do that, I would let them do that. One thing that I really like that I feel like I've mentioned before, if not, I've talked about on social media lots.
Sure.
But Mardi Gras necklaces.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I have a bunch of brightly colored Mardi Gras necklaces. They are all little tiny dice. Uh-huh. And what we do is when we play,
he throws them at us and we lift our shirts up. No, go on.
So I can see your wounds so that
yes.
I've seen you've taken 3 sword wounds, so I know to heal you. No. For each quarter of your hit points you are down, you put on a Mardi Gras necklace.
Yeah. But I feel like there was a time we played recently, or like I think the last time we played, but anyway, there was like an attack that happened, and then like Steve like immediately puts on 3 necklaces, and it was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was probably the 4th edition game, which I think was a while ago. But
I think you're right.
Yeah, and those were really helpful in 4th edition because there were mechanics for what happens when you get below half.
Yeah.
So sorry, if you're over 75%, you don't wear one.
Right.
If you are from 50 to 75, you put one on.
Yeah.
25 to 50. So if you're below 50%, you wear 2.
Yeah.
And if you're below 25%, you wear 3.
Yeah.
And that means any player, without asking you how hurt you are, without asking what your hit points are, the player can physically look at you and know he's really close to death. Or I think he's taken a little damage, but it looks to be all superficial. He's fine.
Yeah.
Or he's wounded, but he'll probably be okay for a little while.
Yeah.
I really, really like that because it lets the player, number one, it lets the player get a little bit in the mind of the character, just a little bit.
Sure.
It's not really that immersive, but it lets the player get in-game information without having to say it.
Yeah.
Without having to say it or without having to ask it.
Sure.
That is the smoother you can make that kind of mechanical communication, the better. So I really like that. It is 100% meta. Well, it's not 100% metagame, but it is very metagame, but it's not as metagame as asking, what are your hit points?
Right.
Or just saying, well, I know he took 12 damage. I'm going to go heal him.
Yeah, it's like, all right, the monster he's fighting right now who can attack next turn, he just did 6 damage last time and he has 5 hit points left, so he very well could die this turn.
Sure.
If I don't do something, so I'm going to heal him because because you know exactly, you have an idea of what the enemy can do. You know exactly what your ally has left. You're like, all right, I have to heal them. Mm-hmm. Whereas if if you don't know those things for sure, you can be like, I'm gonna see if I can just kill this guy. I mean, maybe because I don't know, I'll do enough damage to kill him and stop him from attacking anyway.
Sure. Yeah. So these are all like those are some examples of metagaming that people generally are okay with. Yeah. A lot of people don't even realize that they are metagaming. If a person says, hang on, let me make the check because I have a higher modifier.
Right.
I don't think many people will say, whoa, you can't do that. That's metagaming. Mm-hmm. Because, the characters probably know I'm really good at this thing. It is metagaming. Maybe in some situations it's not, but that is generally one type that is accepted.
Yeah.
Now, there are some negative forms of metagaming. I mentioned earlier, if a player uses knowledge of a monster to tell the DM how they should be running the game, that's bad. That is bad, and that is a bad form of metagaming.
Sure.
Another bad form of metagaming, if I guess here's an example, if a player has read the module that a DM is running.
Oh, yeah.
And then he uses some of that to their advantage.
Yeah.
That's metagaming, and I would say that is generally frowned upon. That I would say that is widely frowned upon. Mm-hmm. If there's a secret door and the player knows about it and the rest of the players don't, the characters are just going through, and then out of nowhere one of the players is like, hey, I'm gonna search this wall right here. And all the other players are like, well, what are you doing? Oh, no reason. I'm just gonna search this square.
Right.
This particular square. I'm going to search this square, DM.
Yeah.
I
rolled low. I'm going to roll again and again.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I found something.
There you go. Have you ever seen the show Community?
No.
I've only seen one episode, and it was an episode where the characters play D&D.
Yeah, my sister watched the show, and when D&D came up, she immediately texted me. She's like, you should watch the show. It has D&D in it. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
And I don't really know the characters, but from what I understand, Chevy Chase's character is an antagonist of some sort.
I think that's the case.
Well, in this particular episode, he wasn't invited to play the game or something like that, and he found out what module the rest of the group was going to be playing. So he got a copy of the module and then read it himself, and then basically started usurping the group by telling the DM, I'm going to go. He would take the DM aside and be like, hey, that treasure, I'm going to go and steal it so the players can't get to it or something. And so then it becomes the players fighting him instead of the players fighting the antagonist, or he gets some amulet that lets him control the big bad dragon of the adventure or something. For anyone who is familiar with this episode, I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining it. But, in a real game of D&D, that would be the bad form of metagaming. Reading up on what is essentially the DM's secret notes and finding out the hidden stuff and then using that to their advantage. Mm-hmm. We mentioned earlier, if you said that if you know something that the character doesn't, you might roll a check to find out if your character knows that.
Yeah.
If you didn't roll that check, if you didn't do something to give your character a reasonable chance of knowing that, using that knowledge is generally frowned upon.
Yeah.
Example, the players are going along and they encounter some like large green-skinned monsters that have claws, and when they claw at you, they rip you apart. And then as you attack them, you notice, they're starting to regenerate their wounds.
Yeah. If
a player immediately says, I'm going to use acid splash on it, or some acid attack, or a fire attack. And fire, I think, is a bit more common, so that's easier to rationalize. But if a player immediately uses some sort of non-standard attack that just happens to bypass this monster's regeneration, that's generally frowned upon too.
Yeah.
Again, there is just the random chance they might do this by accident and it works. It shouldn't be never allowed, but if you're that player, try to find some way for your character to do it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Or maybe even roleplay that you do it accidentally or something like that.
There you go. I would be fine with a character doing that if they roleplayed it as being unintentional.
Yeah, it's just like in a little, like he got, character got nervous and like grabbed for his sword and accidentally like got his sword caught on like a flask of acid or something and like flung it out at him, and then that was the attack.
Sure.
That could be that, and I feel like if I was a player with that knowledge, maybe I would do that like if it seems like the party as a whole is struggling or something like that.
So yeah, there's good metagaming and bad metagaming, but to sort of bring this back around to the question, I did not even realize this whole episode was going to be about this one question, but I think it's a good topic.
Yeah,
I like talking about metagaming and the ups and downs.
Yeah, it's definitely an important topic.
Sure. So how do you encourage new players to avoid it? This was a very, very long lead in to actually answering the question.
You get a stick, and every time they do it, you go, no.
Well, so what I would do is I would let them do it for a little while. After a couple times of doing it, after they do it the first time, not necessarily, if it was some sort of like overt metagaming, like maybe, I know from another game I played in that trolls are weak against fire.
Yeah.
I would let them do it, but I would say, just so you know, I don't know if your character has a way of knowing that. I would have them roll a check. Yeah. I would probably let them do it regardless. But if they rolled low, I would say, you don't know why your character wants to use fire, but your character thinks using fire would be a good idea.
Sure.
So I would let them do it at first, and then I would start enforcing the checks as they went on. If they continue doing it, I would just impress upon them that this is something that you can do, but you should roll a check before trying to do it. That way, it'll get them to associate in their head, wait a minute, when I use information my character wouldn't know, I roll a check first. If they then start saying, hey, I'm going to roll a check to see if my character knows to do that, I would know I've done my job.
Sure, yeah.
Because I don't ever want to tell them, no, you can't do it. Similar to when we were playing D&D earlier, I didn't want to tell the players, you can't use that character that you made.
Sure, yeah.
I checked with the other players to make sure it was okay first, but I ultimately did want them to be able to feel free to do that. Similarly, I wouldn't want them to not feel like they can use this information, because again, I don't want to penalize them for having a good memory. But I do want them to associate using metagame knowledge with at least making a check. There's some sort of an obstacle before you can use that.
Right.
And then as it goes on, as they become more aware of it, I would start calling for checks less and less often. And they would become presumably more familiar with the game and more experienced. Yeah. So at that point, hopefully I wouldn't need to require that.
Yeah. And I mean, in the case of knowing what a troll is weak to, like it's figuring that out is kind of part of the skill checks and stuff like that. Like having knowledge nature or whatever trolls would fall under. Yeah, like there's not as many knowledges in 5th edition.
Yeah, I know. Earlier in the game, I was trying to figure out, the players encountered some magmen, which are, I mean, there could have been a lot of metagaming stuff, but they ended up bypassing the encounter entirely, which I was fine with because we were running out of time. But with those monsters, when you kill them, they explode. And they deal damage to everyone within a certain radius. I was trying to figure out what check would be needed for a player to recognize that or to know that.
Yeah.
And eventually I settled on Arcana because they are elemental creatures. So I figured Arcana, the planes.
Sure.
I think that was the right choice to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, there aren't a lot of, I feel like there are fewer skills to recognize stuff like that.
Yeah. But I mean, like, yeah, just making nature, check or whatever.
Nature, Arcana, religion in the case of like demons or devils or undead.
Yeah. So like, and like if you roll it high enough, it's like, oh, okay, you've heard tales of a creature that
sure,
that cannot die except for by fire or acid.
Yeah. I miss in 3rd edition bardic knowledge.
Yeah.
it was a skill that you didn't put points in. You only got it if you were a bard, and that your modifier was like your bard level plus your intelligence modifier or something.
Yeah.
And it was just anytime there was some obscure piece of information, you could roll this check, and if you rolled high enough, you got it. I think the examples they gave were always like really obscure things, like the name of the archwizard's daughter or something like that. But I'm sure I and a lot of other people just treated it as like kind of just a catch-all knowledge.
Right, yeah.
If you didn't have another knowledge skill that applied, use bardic knowledge.
Yeah.
And I was fine with that.
One of the guys in the group I'm playing in, he uses that's a running joke.
Yeah.
It's like bardic knowledge. Like none of us are bards.
Yeah.
Or is he? I don't know. But no, I don't think any of us are bards. It's just like, I'm going to roll bardic knowledge check to see what the heck is going on.
In this edition, they took that out and instead replaced it with the Jack of all trades ability, which just means that you have half of your proficiency added to every skill you're not proficient in.
Oh.
So even if you're not proficient in it, you're still better at someone who is also not proficient in it.
And then like, do bards get this? Maybe bards get it. Yeah, bards get it. Expertise.
Do they? I know rogues get it in certain things.
I think maybe one of the bard like schools or something gets it. But expertise, where you add, you're doubling your proficiency modifier to like a chosen couple of skills, and those could be the knowledge ones or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So to avoid metagaming, I would say let your players do it, but at first say, hey, your character doesn't necessarily know this. Start requiring checks from them. And they don't even have to be high checks. They could be like a DC 5 or something. But try to get your players to associate doing something metagame with making a check first. Yeah. And then eventually they'll know, oh, okay, there is some sort of an obstacle, so maybe I shouldn't do this unless I really want to do it. So yeah, I think we got a lot more out of that question than I thought we were going to. Sure, but that's fine with me.
Yeah, and we could definitely talk about it more too, because I'm sure metagaming has come up before in the past, and I'm sure it will come up again soon. So
yeah. So before we finish out questions, though, we do have our social media discussion question.
Oh yeah.
Now, so we got more responses this week because I didn't quite wait until the last minute to post it.
Sure.
Although to be fair, I don't think we got any more responses to that question since then.
Yeah.
So just one thing I wanted to say, a disclaimer for anybody hearing this. If you are hearing this episode, the time to respond to this question has already passed, because we've already, like, this question, it was put up a while ago, a while before this episode goes out. So, if you're hearing this, don't go and try to respond to it in hopes that we'll bring it up on a future episode.
Yeah.
Instead, you should go and you should see what our question is currently, answer that, and then we will possibly mention you on a future episode.
Yeah.
So, the question that we talked about, that we talked about last time, apart from medieval fantasy, what is your favorite genre for an RPG? Mm-hmm. And then I think you said like sci-fi or like sci-fi fantasy, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I said like modern fantasy or like modern horror or something. I don't remember exactly what my answer was.
Well, yeah, I think we talked about like horror films or something like that.
Yeah. So some responses that we got from some of our listeners on Facebook. David said, is Firefly a genre? If so, that.
Yeah.
And so my response was, I would say like, I would call that like space opera or space western.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that definitely fits as a genre. It's a good answer.
Yeah. There's actually a couple, maybe we've talked about them, but yeah, there's a couple Firefly tabletop games.
There are. Yeah.
There's one like based on the movie, or there's one that was like made around the time of the movie, and then one that was made around the time when the show was still going.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Next up, we have Adam on Facebook says, I love to play within modern fantasy settings. Sure. So very similar to me.
Cool.
I mentioned the current, and actually, sorry, he mentioned the movie Bright on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked that. I would love to play in a game in the Bright setting.
Yeah, that was a neat idea.
Yeah, and I mentioned the current Adventure Zone setting. The current Adventure Zone campaign is in a modern setting, and I really, really like it. Justin from Crit Academy, he said apocalyptic setting.
Cool.
Either apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic. I'm not sure which he meant. Yeah. He said he played a game of Rifts that started very much like the Shannara series, which I've never read, although I'm pretty sure I own a few of those.
Okay.
He said in that magic and power exists. He says they ran into monsters and weird magical tools of power. They came to find out they were just lost pieces of technology, like the Staff of Destruction, this all-powerful rod that could unleash a powerful fireball strong enough to slay a dragon.
Ooh.
What do you think it actually was?
Just like a gun.
It was a bazooka.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would call that a Staff of Power.
Right, yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Jonathan on Facebook said he enjoys sci-fi space genre or pseudo-modern like Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Another John G, said Warhammer 40K.
Oh, yeah. So, which is... Yeah, it's a type of sci-fi, I guess. Yeah, it's like a fantasy, kind of almost medieval sci-fi.
Yeah, and then Chris, not real Chris,
dang,
but Tennessee Chris.
Tennessee Chris.
Yes, he said cyberpunk, but Shadowrun specifically. Shadowrun
Cool.
is his favorite setting across the board. Mm-hmm. So I recommended to him Monster in My Podcast, which is made by the duckfeed.tv. Guys, Gary included.
Yeah.
They're currently going through one of the Shadowrun monster manuals.
Oh, yeah.
So
cool.
they've been going through that. Also on Twitter, we've got at Ballad7Dice, Ballad of the 7 Dice, which is, I think, another podcast, said, I love that sci-fi fantasy mix-up. Traveling through space while blasting spells just holds a place near and dear to my heart.
Cool.
And then DM Carlos, which is at Carl Linsmeyer, said, I've only ever played D&D and Vampire the Masquerade, but I would love to play a steampunk setting or something post-apocalyptic.
Cool.
And then we had one response on Reddit, which was Peace Joy Pancakes said, I don't know about favorite, but I quite like steampunk. Though also we had fun with more sci-fi or cyberpunk themed games.
Yeah.
So yeah, sci-fi and cyberpunk and steampunk seem to be the most popular ones among our listeners. Mm-hmm. So for today, we have a different question. So our question for this coming week, and by this coming week, I mean for you guys, the week that has long passed.
Sorry
the
about
question,
that.
I've thought about possibly trying to do them 2 weeks in advance, but I don't know. I don't know if I like that any better. Yeah. Anyway, so the question this time is going to be, did you ever play interactive fiction? So that is like text adventures, like, I'm trying to think of some examples. Colossal Cave Adventure was one of the first ones. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where like, the ones where the text gives you like, you are in a room, there is a table with 7 pieces of mail on it, a door to your west, a door to the west, a door to the east.
Yeah.
What do you do? And then you have to type in, you have to parse what it is you want to do. Like take mail, go east, look at door, so stuff like that.
Games like Zork.
Yes. Zork is a great example.
Yeah.
So did you ever play interactive fiction? If so, what was your favorite?
Yeah. Myself, I don't think I really ever played much of like text adventures like that. Mm-hmm. I was always a very visual kid.
Sure.
But there was a text-based like online. It was basically an MMORPG. It was like an MMO almost. It was called Medivia.
Okay.
But it was basically like it was a text-based adventure. I think there was a little bit of graphics to it, but no, it was basically mostly just text-based adventure. But it was like online and there was multiplayer and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But beyond that, Zork, I think I played around with a little bit. And then there were like later versions of Zork where it was more visual. It was more just like a point-and-click adventure or something like Myst.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess I didn't really do too many text ones.
Yeah. I know that there was one I played when I was a little kid because in my adult life, when I've encountered them, I knew what they were, but I can't think of what it was. I know there was a game that I think was a text adventure that there was an one of the earliest forms of the internet, one of them, not the earliest, but one of the earliest, was called Prodigy.
Okay.
It was basically like an internet browser that had a bunch of there were games you could play if you were a kid. There was other stuff. I don't know, but I remember those games. I remember there being a game that I think was called Mad Maze because I have found it online. There is supposedly a browser-based version you can play, but every time I try to play it, no matter what browser I use, it doesn't work. So I can't find out for certain if that's what I played. But I remember that. I remember getting really far into it one day, and then I had to log off, and I was never able to get back into it.
Oh.
But that one was, typical fantasy. I don't remember really much of the details. This was like 96 or something. Anyway, but one thing that I think is worth mentioning, in Fallout 3, there is a computer terminal you can find that has a text that has interactive fiction that you can play. Right. So very, very short, I think it is Grognak the Barbarian.
Yes.
So it is I think
you're right.
You are Grognak the Barbarian. There is an evil wizard in front of you, and then you can go east. You have to go get this key, and then go west, and then open this door and get the magic axe or something, and then you eventually kill the evil wizard or whatever. And I loved that was in another game.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like when there's smaller games within a game or something, or like a Grand Theft Auto where you can go to the arcade and you can play an arcade game. Sure, like that. Yeah. No, and I kind of like stuff like that.
Yeah, and then one other thing I want to mention is that it isn't a computer-based interactive fiction, but if you like interactive fiction, there is a website. I want to say it is memento-mori.com. So Memento Mori with a hyphen in the middle. And they have these things you can buy that it is a very, very short, simple, interactive fiction, except there's no computer. It's a double-sided thing that you print out on just one sheet of paper.
Yeah.
For the person, you have a person running it similar to a DM. And then that person has a map of the place. It has a description of each location. It's got the items that can be found there. And then you play it like you would interactive fiction, but instead of having a computer, a player is asking another player. So I would have this thing in front of me and I would say to you, you are standing in front of, I think one of them is called Action Castle. So you are standing in front of Action Castle. Uh-huh. What do you do? And then the player would say, go east. And then I would read the description for what happens if you go east.
Right.
And then you are now to the east of Action Castle. There is a tree in front of you. And then you would say, go up tree. So then you are at the top of the tree. There is a nest with 3 eggs in it or something.
Yeah.
And then you'd say, take eggs. You now have eggs in your inventory. Look at eggs. The eggs are blue and brown speckled or something.
Uh-huh.
And then if you say something that, if you say jump from the tree to the castle, I would say, I don't understand, jump from tree to the castle or something, So it's pretty simple. It'll probably take half an hour or something.
What that makes me want to do is, if I ever run a D&D campaign, have there be part of the story where there is a curse placed on the characters or the location or or the area, and basically it turns into an adventure like that, where it's you're cursed to only move in in 4 directions, and you have to speak what you want to do.
I think that would be pretty fun.
And the end goal is to get rid of the curse so they can go about their business.
Sure, that could definitely be a nice change to a session.
Yeah.
And in theory, there's no reason you couldn't run one of these for multiple characters, as long as you're able to keep track of what each different character has done.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the question. Did you ever play interactive fiction? If so, what was your favorite?
Yeah.
So hopefully by the time this episode goes up, we've gotten some good responses, because by that point we probably will have recorded next episode.
Sure. Plus, I want to see what people come up with so I can check them out, because like I said, I never really played many of them when I was younger. So
yeah. So I think that'll do it for questions for today. So I think we're going to sit back. We're going to take a deep breath. And so we're going to toss another log onto the funeral pyre. And this is a real short one because we're running a bit late on time here.
Yeah.
So this is from Body Joy on Facebook.
Giggity.
Not Facebook, no. This is from Body Joy on Reddit. You can say gay. Anyway. And this was written in haiku form.
Oh.
Cone of mind blasting.
Uh-oh.
Face tentacles searching scalp.
Oh, gosh.
My brain is eaten.
Oh, no.
Is that a haiku? My brain is eaten. Yeah, I think that's a haiku.
That's a great mind flayer haiku.
Yes. So let us raise a glass in memory of person who lost their brain. Clink. That's good. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on social media, on Facebook at facebook.com/interpartyconflict, our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, or our Twitter at InPartyConflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We have a Patreon, so check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, you want to tell us about FriendQuest?
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we played video games.
Yes, and if you'd like to submit some of your childhood memories of going to the arcade, either write them to us in an email or record it yourself and send it to us that way at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
I knew you were going to say that.
You're metagaming. You read my notes, didn't you?
No.